Welcome to the What is Your Legacy podcast. In each episode, we invite leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and community champions to share their story of their journey. Covering the fields of sport, business, community, entertainment, politics, and philanthropy, we allow our guests to speak openly and share the ups and downs of their journey, and all of the things in between. My name's Trevor Worth, founder and chief executive of Portcullis Legals, and I hope you enjoy what we always call conversations worth having. Our guest today is Simon Hallett, the chairman of Plymouth Argyle Football Club. This was recorded the day before a very important game at Home Park, so we appreciate Simon's time. And we talk all things stadium redevelopment, naming rights, the most recent appointments, future appointments in terms of coach, player recruitment, and all bits in between. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you.
Nice to see you here.
Nice to see you. Nice
Good.
to be here, Trevor.
Our pleasure. And big day tomorrow.
Straight in, eh?
Straight in. Straight in.
Definitely a big day.
Yeah.
We've worked so hard over the last 5 years to get to where we are today, and we clearly want to stay.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a great day, I think.
And we need the crowd, like Leicester City at home, don't we?
Correct. The crowd against Leicester was remarkable. It didn't stop throughout the game. It was the Devonport, it was the Lyndhurst, it was Zoo Corner, it was even the grandstand, I believe, was shouting above me. Yeah. So we need that kind of continuous support, whether we're drawing in the lead or falling behind.
Yeah, it's interesting that you referenced the zoo, because I tell a lot of people, obviously younger than me, that there was a zoo behind Home Park, wasn't it? We remember it, don't we? Back in the day.
Remember. I can still smell it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the hippos and the light, and I remember there used to be a pair of parrots that used to fly up onto the end of the Barn Park bit, and but people don't believe that. But it's
there's a reason why it's called. I don't see why people shouldn't believe it.
No,
I don't think I've ever been in the Barn Park end to watch a game. I always used to stand in the Devonport, but
yeah, myself as well. Yeah, Devonport end, and obviously the progress the club's made over the last sort of 5 to 10 years has been incredible from where it was, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And what's been the highs of your tenure as a chairman?
Promotion last year, and I think winning the league against such tough competition kind of outpaced, getting promoted from League Two, where you kind of felt we should get promoted from League Two. We don't deserve to be in League Two. We shouldn't be in League Two as a club. But getting out of League One against clubs like Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich was just remarkable. And I think we forget sometimes what an amazing season it was. 3 top clubs last season in League One got 297 points, I think.
Which is phenomenal.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And even in the Championship this year with the parachute payment clubs coming down and Ipswich on their remarkable run, they're not going to get that amount of points between them.
No. And Ipswich, runners up to us last year, weren't they? They've done a phenomenal job, haven't they? And it's you don't know if it's a one-off sort of thing or what, but the Championship, as we've said many a time, it's a great competitive league, isn't it?
Yep.
Everyone can beat everyone.
Everyone can beat everyone most of the time. Yeah. It's made less competitive by the parachute payments that come with the teams getting relegated from the Premier League. But I think for competitive strength, for the drama of promotion and relegation, the cliche that the playoff final from the Championship is the most valuable match in world sport adds to the whole thing. I think the EFL is fantastic, and I think the Championship is the pinnacle of the best league in the world. Yeah. And I'm not as interested in the Premier League, frankly.
No, you hear that a lot now, don't you? And the other things you hear at Premier League grounds particularly is how corrupt the Premier League is with VAR and all those sorts of things. I think it's refreshing to watch football without that involvement.
Couldn't agree more. I'm not so sure about VAR, but football is a low-scoring sport and it needs some randomness to add to the drama. And VAR, takes the randomness out, so it decreases the possibility that the worst team can beat the best team, which I think it should be a strong possibility, and then you have all these ridiculous delays. So it's failed in its mission of making the game more just, shall we say.
I know what you're saying.
And I don't think justice deserves in football. You need a bit of luck here and there.
You do, and human error, don't you?
And human error.
I think it sort of sucks some of the joy out of it, doesn't it?
Completely suck the joy out. If you can't celebrate a goal anymore, You know, where's the joy?
Yeah, what's the point?
In a game that averages 3 moments of great joy a
Yes,
match,
exactly. Yeah,
you can't ruin them.
no, it's not like baseball, is it, or NFL or something where
It's
it's
not
high
like baseball
scoring.
or the NFL. Much more
Basketball.
high scoring. The individual games don't matter so much, and you're not so reliant on chance.
No, you're not. I was very fortunate last year to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah.
And he gave a talk, and one of the key sort of takeaways, somebody said to him, what advice would you give to anyone walking away today for their life, their business life, whatever it is? And he turned around and said, I always believe you should never have a plan B. Mm-hmm. Now, you're a businessman. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that? Because I think with the result coming up the weekend, there's got to be a plan A and a plan B, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I know where he's going. I mean, he's basically saying you don't have a plan B so that you're wholeheartedly committed to plan A. But in activities where outcomes are beyond your control, and we know that if we win tomorrow, we're safe.
Yes.
But winning isn't completely in our control. There are refereeing decisions. We're playing a very good team. It could be that Hull's shot goes in off the post and our shot goes out off the post. So there's a lot of variability in outcomes that is just not in your control. So you have to have a plan B.
Yeah. And the impact of one way or the other is huge, isn't it, on a club and a staff?
Absolutely huge. It's particularly huge at the moment. So the plan B is we have player contracts that adjust on relegation, and we've been one of the most I want to say most profitable, but of course we don't actually make profits. But we don't lose anything like as much money as other clubs. We've been breaking even in cash flow terms over the last 5 years. We're going to break even this year. So the financial stresses from relegation are not going to be as bad on Argyle as on many clubs.
And that's just good strategic planning, data.
It is good strategic planning, but it also means that we're not prepared to go out and lose a lot of money to gamble on finishing higher in the championship. So there's a cost to it. Yeah. And the cost is that it increases the risk of relegation. It does. And, that's where we are today.
It is, isn't it? I mean, Argyle's quite often held up as like a bastion of how to run football properly. Yeah. I remember the lady chairperson at Port Vale last year was very kind and generous, wasn't she, in describing what sort of club Plymouth are and how you run it. Yeah. And you see lots of horror stories of other clubs, up and down, and when they've built new stadiums, when they've invested, unwisely, as it turns out. And one of the big things that we get asked a lot as partners of Argyle is about stadium redevelopment. Now, the one thing I will say is please don't fill in the corner where our big sign is, because that looks great on television. It's fantastic. And it stands out, doesn't it? Purple.
We can find another way of getting portcolours legal.
Somewhere, somewhere.
On TV.
But you must get this question a lot about, filling in corners. Yeah. Do they do 2 tiers? And I know Argyle have grown their footprint, aren't they, as a club up at Home Park and Brickfields as well. Yeah. And what's your thoughts on where that sort of heads? Because it's expensive, isn't it?
It's expensive, but you get a return. It's not like spending money on a new striker where the return is very hard to estimate, and again, very chancy. They may break a leg or whatever. So the investment that we've done over the last 4 or 5 years, and in fact before that, since I became involved, I think the first capital raise that we had after I became a shareholder was to buy back the stadium. Yeah. People forget that 10 years ago we didn't even own Home Park. True. Since then we bought back Home Park. We bought Goals, now rebranded as Harpers. So we've been building up the potential for the stadium and the surrounding area. We're now developing a plan for really the next 10, 15, 20 years about what we can do in and around Home Park. That plan will include eventually filling in the corners. It will include building up Harpers into a fit-for-purpose first team training centre.
All right.
It will include doing a lot of stuff around in Higher Home Park, which at the moment has a marquee a very high quality marquee for the players' gym. Yeah. It has the FanFest area that we've opened this year, and we're actually doing work as we speak to put a marquee for the GTs to replace the GT suite that we're taking over.
Oh, of course. In
the immediate future. So the GT suite is going to be taken over by Argyle, and the GTs are going to be relocated to a marquee on Higher Home Park.
Is that the upstairs in the Green Tavern?
There will be upstairs, we're going to have 2 tiers. We're basically extending hospitality out of the Mayflower into the GTs, so that we can segment the market from, the platinum, gold,
I know what you mean,
and so on. So
we're going to have
a sports bar, and we're going to have a slightly more fancy hospitality offering.
Right.
So all these plans are going to require tens of millions of investment, and I think I've been pretty clear that I'm done. I said that I could get us to my resources, and what Jane would let me invest could get us to the championship, but probably not beyond.
Yeah.
To stay in the championship has got more and more difficult over the years, so we need to invest in infrastructure to make us a championship ready club. We're not quite there yet.
No.
And that requires new investment. So, as you know, we can only do these things when we have new sources of investment. And
of course.
We're looking for that now.
Yeah, that's good. And I know you have the Argyle Green element, don't you, from the States?
Yeah.
Our friend Nick.
Yeah.
And obviously that's an ongoing discussion out there. But are you looking in Europe or the UK as well? Or?
We're looking wherever we can. Now, it so happens that most of the investment into European football is coming out of the United States. Argyle Green, where Nick Gianotti is the main principal on behalf of a quite wide-ranging group of investors, doesn't have the resources to do everything that we want.
No.
So they own about 12%. They may increase slightly over the next few years, but they're going to be minorities. We're looking for people with more substantial resources.
Yes, okay.
But the US is embracing football in a way that I think people don't quite recognise in the UK.
No.
Certainly 10 years ago, they had no idea how popular football was in the US. I used to tell people the truth that the Portland Timbers have higher attendances than Chelsea, and people didn't believe me.
No, they wouldn't, would they?
A few years ago, they started a Major League Soccer franchise in Atlanta.
Oh yes,
in the South.
Yeah,
which is where the main sport is college football.
Yeah,
and everybody said soccer will never take off in Atlanta.
Yeah.
In their very first season, their average crowd was the 9th biggest in world football.
That's incredible.
So just think of that.
Yeah.
So since then, we've had the Wrexham story.
Yes.
Hollywood getting involved in Wrexham. We've had Ted Lasso.
Yes.
Which was popular here, but nothing like its impact in the United States.
No.
And Americans are embracing football or soccer in droves.
In a huge way.
And with the World Cup coming up, it's just going to increase. So there are opportunities both for developing a fan base, but also for finding investors.
There are.
We're looking hard.
Yeah. The other one there is obviously Beckham into Miami, bringing the some Galacticos and obviously the likes of Messi. It's a hell of a journey, and it's interesting how corporate America is buying into that, isn't it? Your Apple and Adidas and what have you. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to a game at the stadium you're talking about in Atlanta, the Mercedes-Benz, and the atmosphere is it's off the scale. It's strange because you go and watch and you come with all your British experience, don't you? And then you get into that and it just feels like a different game, and it's wonderful, I think. It's wonderful.
I think so. Yeah, I haven't been to Atlanta, but I've been to MLS games in Philadelphia, Nashville, and a couple in LA at LAFC. And they all have fantastic atmosphere, and English fans or British fans will sneer at them and say it's all artificial. But it's still noisy, it's still raucous,
Absolutely.
It's still everything you want from being at a football game.
Yeah, because as much as we've all got our teams and we've all got our passion and the rest of it, it is an experience now, isn't it? More than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this is one of the key issues that I've been quite public that I think we should do away with the 3:00 limit on streaming, and I say that because I'm confident that the live experience is so much better. Than watching on your couch.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
There's nothing like the lessons from other entertainment industries like music. When I was a kid in Plymouth, you could buy an album for I think it was $4.99, but to go to a concert at the Guildhall was £2.
Yeah,
and bands toured to promote their albums.
They did.
And today, all the music in the world is $10 a month.
Yeah.
And concert tickets start at 100 and end in thousands.
Yeah.
So there's a real premium on the live experience, and I think it's incumbent on football clubs to make sure that that live experience is as good as it can possibly be, and that's obviously something that we've been big on at Argyle over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well. Like you said, that's done a full 180, isn't it? That's gone right round.
Yep.
And with football, I think you see a lot of grounds now, they're quite empty until it gets near kickoff, isn't it? So either there's a great experience going on underneath the stands or just outside in fan zones, or people are just arriving later. I think it's about capturing them for several hours, isn't it? Not
Absolutely.
just.
So we've been quite. I can't say we've been quite aggressive, but we've this year we've made progress on that. So not half, but a large portion of Higher Home Park is now FanFest pre-game, starting from January. I think was our first game. Maybe Millwall was our first when we first opened in the rain.
It's rained a lot this year.
Now we're getting nearly 2,000 people.
Wow.
Turning up, for listening to music, having a beer, or
spending,
a glass of cider.
Which is good.
Spending, The big difference between the kind of revenue model for American sports and UK sports is about food and bev, as the hotel people say.
Yes.
So Argyle get, I'm going to say just over £2 a head of spending for people who are in the stadium. I know that the Exeter Chiefs, even a few years ago, were getting 14 or 15.
Wow.
And I shudder to think what it is in America, partly because prices are higher than we could ever want to have at Argyle.
Yeah.
I had a beer at an LA Dodgers baseball game at the end of last season, and I was horrified that it cost me literally $26, which is about 20 quid.
Oh my goodness. That's like Scandinavian prices.
Scandinavian, and that was to take a beer out of the fridge and take it to a cashier. It wasn't even to be served. Now, we recognised at Argyle that football is different. We have to offer good value.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do our best to offer good value, but we have to provide opportunities for people to come and spend money at Argyle rather than at the local pub.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the FanFest is a step in that direction.
It is, isn't it? There's been so much progress on and off the pitch. When the Mayflower was rebooted and you had the conference facilities, which have been a roaring success, haven't they?
Yeah.
You just felt there was this phrase that all you guys coined at Argyle was one Argyle, wasn't it?
Only one Argyle.
There was there felt like there was a connection and that had not been there before. So credit to everyone involved in that. But if we talk about because it's always the elephant in the room, I guess the most recent coach that was appointed and I think most people felt at that point when we had different direction, some of that felt broken. Some of that felt people didn't feel the connection quite as much during that time. And one of the things that I keep being asked is in the recruitment process. And we all make mistakes in recruitment, don't we? We all do that. Things don't quite pan out as we'd hoped. But what's going to be different on the next round? Is it going to be a different recruitment process or?
The process is going to remain the same. We have a list of criteria that we're looking for. We use data to be able to identify playing style where possible, not always possible. I think where we are going to place more emphasis is going to be on relationships with fans and relationships, essentially people management. You're absolutely right that the Only One Argyle thing has been enormously successful.
Yes.
And I think that the unity, I wrote about this at the end of last season when we got promoted. Then won the title. I think that we've done something magic at Argyle. We've not been the biggest spenders, whilst we have been investing very significantly in the fan experience and the infrastructure at Argyle. But we haven't been the big spenders on the football squad. Yet until a couple of months ago, looking back over the last half decade, 5 years, we'd won more games in the EFL than any other club.
Is that right?
Yep. And according to a website that I probably need to check out more, but I'm going to stick with it.
Yes. Always referenced.
Yeah. We'd won more games than Ipswich, than Portsmouth. I think even including the Premier League, the only clubs that had won more games than us were Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool.
City, yeah.
But in the EFL, we'd won more than anybody. And, I think there is a little bit of magic there, and me saying that as a data guy, that unity between the fans, the players, the academy, the club staff, the board, the shareholders, we really were putting as one. And I think that enabled us to massively outperform the finances. And, let's be clear, finances go a long way to driving success. So that unity clearly frayed. Yeah. And I think it's absolutely critical that we get it back.
Absolutely. I felt from the Leicester game, it felt unified all of a sudden again, didn't it?
It did. And, the Leicester game was very unusual.
Yeah.
Now, we went ahead first, and that helps the crowd. And I hope that tomorrow, if we go behind, that the crowd will help lift the team. Yeah. But, it's unusual down here. As a player, you're a long way from home, and I think it's important that our players feel part of the local community, and they absolutely do. Just this morning, I was showing a bunch of US Argyle fans who are in town around, and we were in the GTs where the players were having breakfast, and they were like, "Do all footballers always come up and say hello to people?" And no, I don't think they do, but ours do.
Yeah, ours do.
And see what they do in the community. Yeah. We have a policy of hiring good people. Yeah. And that's part of the Only One Argyle thing. And
absolutely.
It's not just that it's a good thing.
No.
Though it is a good thing, I think it leads to better results.
I know what you're saying. I mean, it's been a mission of the club, hasn't it, to be more engaged with the community, and you've certainly done that.
Correct.
I mean, even in living in Plymouth all my life, I've never felt the club as connected with the city as
but it's really
and
important.
The region.
It's really important. Now, look, I think it's important from the long-term future of the club, and I think that the role that the club plays in the community is absolutely critical for the community. But it all works to get better results.
It does, because it's about what goes on the pitch.
It's about what goes on. It's at least in part about what goes on the pitch, and to me, this has been the real surprise. Yeah. I'm kind of reasonably hard-headed, and this kind of magic, soft stuff, fuzzy stuff, as James always used to say, has been really important, much more than I would have predicted.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I always see you as a very data-driven, strategic person. That's why I've been successful.
Facts.
Yes, facts.
Facts, not data.
No, that's right. No, facts and data. Yeah. I think, for me, one of the big changes in those recent months, because we're trying to look forward, but it's good to reflect on things, isn't it? Was when we're connected as a club to the city, and yet a stupid thing really, it's a minor thing, but it's when the autograph zone was taken away from children, and I thought, what the hell's that all about? Because those children coming through, they're an important part of the future of the club, aren't they? Yeah. And that was removed, and there just felt like little signs of disengagement, didn't it, rather than engagement. Yeah. And I know you've been big on that all the way through, and that sort of thing is back now, isn't it? And whatever new coach comes in, they mustn't be able to influence those sorts of decisions at all, ever.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't realised that the autograph zone was taken away. I know that it was starting to get a little out of hand, and the players are having to arrive earlier and earlier and disrupting their routine. Yeah. And it was all associated with some other changes.
Yes, of course.
I hadn't realised that it had actually been taken away.
Yeah, some parents had said it had been stopped, and the children loved that. We always did as children, like that sort of thing. Heroes, isn't it? It's all that sort of stuff. So going forward, I mean, obviously the recruitment process, I don't know if it's already commenced. It probably has, isn't it? And again, it's very dependent on where we are, I guess.
Correct. So it's already commenced. We're pulling in data. We're filtering applications that we get. Yeah. But I imagine there's going to be a flood of applications, whether we're in League One or the Championship, from a different set of potential managers.
And is it a process where people apply for a job, but also you would think about going out and headhunting the type? Yeah.
Both. So we do get a lot of applications, and most of them are at least worthy of a quick look. Yeah. So the process will enable us to filter them fairly efficiently. But no, we will go out and approach people if we think they're ideal. The regulations are such that you need club permission. So it becomes rather public.
Yeah.
Things leak.
Yes,
so
they do.
it would be nice to, and of course you have to pay compensation if you're taking somebody who's already under contract.
Of course.
As happened with both Ryan and Ian. We had to pay compensation because they were under contract.
Yeah.
So we'd prefer to have somebody, all other
Yes.
things being equal, we'd much prefer to have somebody that we can approach.
Yeah.
Because they're not under contract.
No, absolutely. And resources can be used for other things then, can't they? Players.
It's always something.
what have you. It's always something, isn't it? And I noticed the other day when I did see you in that pub car park in Stoke, there was something in the press afterwards about how you bumped into Stephen going in, Schumacher, and that's good. There's always bitterness, isn't there, at the time?
Yeah.
There always is. And as we know, life just goes on, doesn't it, afterwards? And we focus back on Plymouth and,
Yeah, you can be bitter, and bitterness can go both ways.
Yes, it can. Yeah.
Derek Adams now is nice to me.
Yes, yeah.
Paul Watton's nice to me.
They were there the other night, weren't they?
They were there
Leicester.
the other night.
Yeah.
Had a quick chat, which was nice. Ryan let us down, but he and I exchanged messages now.
Yeah.
Of all the managers in my time, the one that I was closest to was Stephen, and he and Victoria were family friends. Yeah. I'd taken Stephen's kids on fairground rides because he was too scared to do so.
Really?
Oh yeah. But I hadn't spoken to him since he left, and we bumped into him, and we discussed on the way out what we're going to do, and it wasn't to give him a hug and say how nice it was to see him, but
no.
You forget just how good Stephen was.
Yeah, that
at
period
Argyle for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
As assistant and then manager.
Of course.
And he's a really good guy.
Yeah, that's good too. Yeah, I know. And I think most fans, whether they feel aggrieved or not, would understand in their family's position. They would, look after the family. Right.
I'm not going to pretend I wasn't aggrieved.
No, of course.
And I was very surprised that my reaction on seeing him was, so nice to see you. Oh, Victoria.
Yeah.
So it wasn't what I was expecting.
No.
I thought I would still be bitter and aggrieved.
Did you?
But I've always said, I'll get over it.
Yeah.
It's football.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And it's such a transient sort of profession, isn't it? Because they're all moving all the time. And all we worry about is how well our club's going to do and where they go from there. I think there's been this talk of DNA within Argyle. We said about the one Argyle and certainly there's been a playing style that we had, obviously under Ryan Lowe and Stephen Schumacher, and I guess we want to get back to that as soon as we can, don't we? Because it looked progressive, it looked attractive to watch, and yes, it was winning football, which is really important, but it was good to go and see football played in that way rather than some of the old archaic ways. So I guess that's the sort of manager you're looking for again.
Very much so, and look, it's the sort of manager we thought we had.
Yes,
we want to play attacking, attractive football. It's as simple as that. Arguably, actually, there were a lot of fans under Stephen saying, we've got to tighten up the defence. And we did tighten up the defence, but it came at the expense of the attack. And I think other things have gone wrong. And if you look at the underlying performances, they weren't quite as good under Stephen as the results that we got. And if you look under Ian, the results were bad, but the underlying performances weren't quite as bad. Yeah. So, but there is absolutely no question but that we lost that kind of swashbuckling approach to a game that we'd encouraged all our managers to take under me. I'm a great believer in risk taking, and sometimes it blows up, and you've got to have a manager who's confident enough to take those risks that sometimes look a bit daft. Yeah. And Stephen was very, very good at that. I mean, he believed us when we said, take risks, we'll support you. Yeah. And I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, the way the modern game is with, we talk about television rights and you touched on earlier about the 3 p.m. kickoff. So I'm with you on that completely in terms of people have got a lot of these dodgy sticks as well. They're watching football anyway.
Yes.
It's just a case of being brave, isn't it? And like I said, making the experience more attractive for people to go to the grounds. But you've also got, obviously, the influence of agents. You've got this. There feels like a maelstrom at the moment in football, in sport. And, the branding of a club is really, really important. And I think the guys at the club have done an amazing job on with the Argyle, just the colour green. It's Argyle green now, isn't it?
Let's not go
Well,
there.
okay. But it looks uniform.
I'm from the Kelly Green era.
Oh, okay.
No, I know.
But it's that thing about it all looks uniform now, doesn't it? Whereas before it was all different colours and.
Yeah, we tried to brand the club much more effectively. So the signage outside the ground looks better. The flags look great.
Yeah.
And that whole Only One Argyle, what we've done in the community has been very effective. We've now got brands such as yourselves. A law firm that has their name up. I mean, it's
great.
That's crazy, really.
Yeah.
We've got Babcock at one end, Kawasaki at the other end, Beacon Electric behind us, and you guys on the other side.
Yeah.
Those naming rights are amazing, and we're very grateful for your support. And I think it's fair to say that 10 or 11 years ago you wouldn't have been prepared to have your name up because you didn't want the brands associated.
Absolutely.
No, you're unusual for a law firm that I think you have a brand.
Yeah, that is unusual.
Most law firms don't.
No.
But it's no coincidence that the Only One Argyle thing, what we've done in the community, Project 35 was a game changer. That wasn't amazing. Why we did it, but turned out to be commercially very successful. But it all stems from that Only One Argyle thing. We are one. Yeah. We are in our rightful place in the middle of the city, in the middle of the Devon and Cornwall community. And brands that I thought would never want to be associated with us now are.
No.
We've got Portcullis.
I know.
We've got Portcullis on
one side,
on the Lyndhurst, but the one that always amazes me is Princess Yachts.
Yeah.
They're not selling a luxury yacht to anybody in the ground.
No, they're not.
So that's all about
supporting
wanting to be
the club,
associated,
community,
supporting the club, emphasising, but without damaging their brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a luxury brand.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's top.
I'm not saying Argyle's a luxury brand, but it means that
they definitely are.
They don't mind being associated. So
and to have two global giants like Babcock and Kawasaki, we sort of know our place because we're a small little local firm, but that's important as well, isn't it? Because it shows the club is engaged with all firms of all sizes, and
absolutely.
Which leads me very nicely onto one of the questions that was sent in, is about naming rights for the stadium, because it's got to be something that's considered somewhere down the line, isn't it, to make things sustainable? And I know the traditionalists don't like that, but it's everywhere else, isn't it?
Well, they don't like it, but nobody minds the Portcullis legal Lyndhurst, the Babcock, Devonport. I thought people would object to it rather more.
Yeah,
actually. The thing about stadium naming rights is that we read these multi-billion-dollar deals done for, the Las Vegas Raiders or something.
Yes, yeah.
And naming rights for whole stadia are not. It's not as much money as people think,
isn't it?
Well, even for grandstands.
Right. Well,
it could be more.
It could always be more. Yeah.
It could always be more. So it would be such a dramatic move to have naming rights over Home Park Stadium, and we've worked hard to create Home Park Stadium as a separate brand from the Argyle brand
for the concerts,
and the and everything associated with using the hospitality, conferencing, and banqueting facilities. So there are no particular plans, but if somebody came along with the right offer, I think we'd have to. We want as much money as we can.
Yes.
Coming from sources other than the fans.
Absolutely.
We want to keep prices so they're good value.
Yeah.
But that means we have to get money from other sources. And by the way, we've been fantastic under Andrew Parkinson at diversifying our revenue sources.
Yeah, because he came down from Liverpool, didn't he?
He did. He was COO at Anfield. Yeah, so we're now, our revenues this year, this year will be 25, 26, 27 million pounds.
Wow.
Our revenues in League One went from 5 or 6 to 15, with modest price rises. But I think we've been able to raise prices slightly more slower than the increased value we've offered. We've invested in the stadium, large amounts of money. We've invested in the branding. We've invested in the fan experience. And I think the value for money that we offer the fans has gone up, and our prices have gone up. But I think the value is still in excess of that, and that's clearly the message we're getting from fans.
It is, isn't it?
I bumped into Nikki Errington this morning, and I said, you don't look very busy, and she said, we've sold out. We haven't got any left.
Great.
We could have sold 3 times as many.
Wow.
So coming back to your earlier question, obviously we need to look at ways to increase capacity at Home Park if we're going to be able to generate more revenues from ticket sales.
Of course, yeah.
Because, we can't. We'll probably put season ticket prices up this year, but we can't carry on raising prices until nobody wants to come. No,
absolutely.
You have to offer value in football, and we've invested in the value proposition, but that has meant price rises, but I think not to catch up with the increases.
No, and with a commercial head on, it's always about driving revenues from whatever source, isn't it? And as long as it's sort of in keeping with the DNA of the club, it's fine. I've got no issue with naming rights, obviously, and I think most people wouldn't have, because it turns into positive things for the rest of the club, doesn't it?
Yeah,
particularly on the pitch, as we know.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, because we chat now and again, don't we?
Yeah.
Every now and again, and it is a pleasure for us to be involved with the club. The club is a part of the city in terms of its fabric, and it's an institution in the city, like one or two other places. But without a club doing what it does and its outreach in the community, the city would be a totally different place, wouldn't it? And 10, 11 years ago, when it nearly went, I mean, that's unthinkable. I mean, somebody said to me once, back then, they said, we've just heard you've lost your airport and now you're going to lose your football club. And it's like, how does that reflect on us as a city, and as a commercial centre?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of them as being...
Because they're significant, aren't they, both of them? So thank goodness we kept one.
Yeah.
And it's flourished in that time, and it's, we're very happy to be involved with Plymouth, and long may that be the case.
Well, thank you.
Wherever we are.
It's a great relationship. We're very happy to have Portcullis Legal on our stand on the Lyndhurst.
Thank you for that.
So thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.